Okay, hi guys, welcome back to another video. Today I'll be explaining why I enjoy riding the Shimano group set as compared to any other brands, particularly the SRAM QUARQ. I'll be explaining why based on the components that I'm running. So this is my S-Works Venge. I'm running the QUARQ DFour Powermeter. I think, yeah, this is a D4 power meter with a QUARQ crank arm, which is 165mm. It's a carbon crank. Well, my whole group set is in Ultegra, and I decided to get a QUARQ power meter just because I think there's been very good reviews about it, and it just looks great on the bike. So QUARQ DFour came up with one for Shimano, so it's compatible with the Shimano group set. However, the only difference is that you will need to, for it to look aesthetically nice, you will need to get a Dura Ace. It's meant to be made for a Dura Ace chainring. Previously I had the Ultegra chainring on, it looks pretty ugly. With the Dura Ace it looks much more complete, where you see the lines, they all match up together. Another thing to note is that if you are running on the QUARQ DFour Powermeter on a Shimano group set, most likely you will need to use SRAM dubs bottom bracket. So let me just, yep, so this is a SRAM dub bottom bracket that is compatible, the whole spindle for the crank and the power meter and the crank arm. So why do I prefer the Shimano crank arm as compared to the SRAM QUARQ crank arm? Well, the main reason is because of the serviceability of it. As you can see on the SRAM QUARQ crank arm, it is somewhat like a center lock. I think FSA uses something similar as well. So if you want to access the bottom bracket, or if you want to remove the crank arm, you will need an Allen key that goes in here, and you could just have to push it out. But the problem with this is the torque is extremely high. Let me see if I can zoom in. No. Anyway, it's written here that it's 54 Newton meters, so it's almost impossible for you know, a home mechanic or somebody like us who wants to remove it. So I mainly do most of my servicing back at home. Simple services, cleaning up of the bottom bracket, I'll just do it by myself. But now I can't do it because of the torque. It's way too high. So I even bought a very long wrench so that I have a bit of leverage to pull it down, but I can't, and I was very afraid that I'll round up the hole in here. So I can't do it now, and I think it's quite hard for me to access the bottom bracket. Whereas on the previous Ultegra, let me see if you can see this. So this is the Ultegra crank arm. As you can see, it's bolted by these two bolts here that hooks onto the spindle, I think you call it, the spindle of the other crank arm. And there is a small little cap. Let me just take that cap out. And this is a cap. It's a plastic cap that kind of goes into the hole of this, the crank arm. So if you would want to remove the Shimano crank arm from the spindle to access the bottom bracket, or if you want to do some cleaning, it's very easy. Just use an Allen key, remove this, let me focus, remove this, there's a small little piece of plastic in there, just hook it off and just unbolt these two hex bolts, and all you got to do is get one of these tool that removes the plastic cap. So it is very easy. That's why I like Shimano. It makes things much more easier as compared to this. I know it's possible to do it, but it just requires a lot of force, and 54 Newton meters is not easy, and it's not easy for someone like me or a home mechanic to do it. So I've seen how people previously do it. They have to hook the Allen key, the wrench here, and they have to hook they remove the pedals, put another arm here, another pole to give it some leverage, and one person will have to hold it and another person pushes it down. I'm not sure if that's a benefit, as in if it's it's much more tighter and there's no play. But I still prefer the old Ultegra crank arm. It's so much more easier to remove if you take it out. Yeah, that's the main reason why I prefer running this. So there's something to think about if you want to upgrade to the QUARQ. Is if you do a lot of maintenance, you might want to think about removing that crank, and how are you going to get it out. Okay, I just want to provide an update. I was just browsing through SRAM's website. So this is the QUARQ DFour Powermeter, the one that you are seeing right now. According to their website, that when you are using this DFour Powermeter, you actually have to use the QUARQ DFour crankset and the SRAM bottom bracket. So I don't think that you can write or you can use any other crankset. So you can't just buy the Powermeter without using their crankset. It also runs on this CR2032 battery, which has like 200 hours of ride time. And okay, you can see here the compatible chainrings. There's a point to note here that it's compatible with the Dura-Ace R9100 chainrings, but it also works with the Ultegra R8000, 105, R7000s, but it will not aesthetically match, which I've mentioned earlier. So this is something to note if you really want to get this Powermeter, is that you have to use QUARQ's crankset and also the dub bottom bracket, and preferably it would just look much better on the Dura-Ace chainring. So you could do something like what I did, run on the Ultegra group set, but just change the outer ring to a Dura-Ace, so just so that it looks much nicer.